Starting off a late age, we are going to take a look at Abysia, Blood of Humans. When the Warlocks began their horrible breeding experiments, they unknowingly spelled the doom of Abysia, but it was not the demon-breds that posed a threat. The real danger came from the human-breds, who were multiplying like vermin and swarming the kingdom. Now, the heat of the smolder cone is faltering with a declining number of pure Abyssians, and magic is seeping from the land. Other sources of magic are needed, and the blood cult of ancient times is renewed with fervor. Pure-blooded Abyssians, now rare, serve as priests and sacred warriors. Unfortunately, this is one of those nations that just, for whatever reason, didn't have any budget left for a lore paragraph, I guess. I don't know why we say so little there. This is a emblematic nation of what a lot of nations are going to go through in late age. A humification, a loss of magic, a loss of their mythical type units, and just a last surge struggle to not snuff out. For national features, we as a race are human-bred Abyssians. We have fire resistance. We prefer heat scales of +2. We have wasteland survival. And death and growth scales have half the standard effect on income and population growth and no effect on supplies. That is actually a pretty interesting bonus and can really change how you think about doing your scales, since we can take death and relatively high death and not have that bad of a penalty. So between the high heat and the death, we can actually make our lands pretty inhospitable for enemy armies to get supplies, which is kind of a nice little side benefit. For military, we have light and heavy infantry, and we have added some axe throwers, which I believe is the first time we've actually had range units in Abysia. For magic, we have fire, blood, astral, death, and some earth. Very little earth. Our priests are powerful and can perform blood sacrifices, although that powerful priest is a cap only. Still nice to have. For scales and blesses, we get a heat limit of +1 and a death limit of +1. For buildings, we do standard forts. Standard forts of late age are actually citadels, and our forts reduce the heat scale deaths by 1 step. So if we are heat 3, we will not be having any heat deaths, although we are probably going to go hotter, so that will at least help mitigate some of the effect. For sites, we have 3. We have the Temple of the Ever-Burning Pyre. This gives us our cap-only big mage/priest, gives us one of our sacred assassins, and our cap-only sacred, in addition to a fire gem. We have Temple Sanguine. This allows us to get the Slayer Sanguine. And we have the Smolder Cone. The Smolder Cone enables the Warlocks and gives us an additional 3 fire gems and increases our heat here even higher. Units and Sacreds. For our lineup here, we have a pretty decent lineup still, ranging from relatively light troops to relatively heavy troops. Starting us off here, we have the Abyssian Light Infantry. These are going to be some of our human-breds. Just as a chassis, human-breds are better than humans by a little bit. They have fire resistance, they have wasteland survival, and they have dark vision. In this case, for this light infantry, 12 gold, 10 resources, 9 recruitment points, nice cheap human price troop. We get 12 HP and 11 strength. Not bad. 11 magic resistance is also higher than normal. We have no natural protection. We are human in that regard. Wielding a spear, 10 attack, 14 piercing damage, a little on the low side, but okay. Again, a lot of units have moved away from length 3 spears and use swords or maces, etc., etc. So you can actually get some repels in, which is always handy. These guys would sure like to get some attack buff to help that out. Defense-wise, we have a ringmail cuirass, we have an iron cap, and we're using a tower shield. Tower shields maintain very useful. They have high enough protection and good enough parry to keep you a little bit safe. They help with crossbows. We have a nice iron cap. Pretty decent here. You do note, though, we only have 8 protection on the body, so not a super high protection troop, but decently priced, pretty darn good, actually. Next up, we have the Abyssian Light Infantry with a axe. Same dude, except for he trades out a spear for an axe. 10 attack for 19 slashing damage. If you don't need the repels, this is probably the better troop, because 19 slashing damage will get through most things. late age seems to actually have some regression on protection. I don't know if I'm ready to say 16 isn't the gold standard, but let's say it is. 19 is definitely above that and good to go. Again, though, make sure you recognize this is a light troop. He only has 9 protection. Well, to be more precise, he only has 8 on the body and 16 on the head. That tower shield, though, will definitely help you out. Next up, we have Abysian heavy infantry. This is the same guy we were just looking at, but now he has put on heavier armor. So he still has the axe, same comment, still has the same traits, still has the same training. He has a plate hauberk, an iron cap, and a tower shield. This goes a long ways to making him much, much, much tougher. Now he has 16 on the head and 18 on the body. That's a good heavy troop there. I will note that all these troops we looked at so far have had morale 10. We're not the bravest group, but hopefully our high protection will keep us safe and we won't be having HP routing problems. I should also note, combat speed 5 here compared to the 9 here. These heavy infantry are very, very, very slow. So just take that into account when you're scripting or who's going to hit who first in those combats. Next up, we have Abyssian heavy infantry. Again, this one has a Morning Star. I actually like Morning Stars quite a bit. Otherwise, he's equipped the same way as everything else we've looked at. Morning Stars are interesting because they are blunt pierce damage, so 50-50 chance which type it's going to do. It gains +2 attack versus shields, and that's actually pretty useful. A lot of line type troops are going to have a shield, so versus them, you're going to have a 13 attack for a 17 damage weapon. That's pretty darn good. 13 attack versus the 10 attack of your axe troop is significant. That's a major bump. And even if maybe you're thinking like, the damage is like right on the cusp, I kind of want the more damage, having 3 extra attack will make up that difference in most cases. So I actually like the Morningstar troops more as long as you're attacking into shields. If you're not attacking into shields, 1 attack for losing 2 damage, probably still worth it. It depends. Next up, we have Abyssian heavy infantry. Now we have traded out our tower shield for a 2-handed battle axe. It is length 2. Again, length 2 actually does a lot of repels, more than you might think, because people have moved on to those one-handed swords for the most part. Beyond that, I believe this is the same exact training. You will see, I didn't mention this before, these heavier troops, 28 resources for the tower shield versions, 26 for the 2-hand version. So a big jump in resources when you go up to heavy troops. Now this guy has 11 attack and 22 slashing damage. That's pretty darn nice. If somehow you're buffing their strength, remember 2-handed weapons get 50% more damage based on their strength bonus, so that's pretty nice there too. Unfortunately, 22 strength is not in the realm of fighting, say, a monolith. So good for other heavy troops, but not gonna break the heaviest of targets. Next, we have same guy, except for he is using a flail. Flails, again, are another weapon I really like. They give you the +2 against shields, but it also has 2 attacks. So a square with 3 of these in it will actually have 6 attacks going out. And that's actually really good. We don't have, we have basically standard human attack density of 3. So doubling that is pretty darn significant. I actually like these guys a lot. If you can get away with not needing the shields, I think this is my go-to. Do note here, though, you are changing out your damage a lot. 16 blunt is nowhere near as good as 22 slashing, in my opinion. So do note, if you're going up against something with really high protection, 16 may not do it for you, even with extra attacks. So kind of pick your targets carefully with those. Next up, we have an interesting unit. We have an Abyssian axe thrower. In ages past, we were just too hot. We couldn't use any ranged weapons because the bow would just burn up in our hands, or the crossbow. Well, I guess we figured out metal. Are these actually metal throwing axes? They sure are. They're made of iron. That's what I thought. Very decently priced. 13 gold, 11 resources, 10 recruitment points. The same chassis otherwise. They are wearing the light troop armor of the Ringmail Keras Iron Cap and only a shield, not a tower shield here. They have an axe, so 10 attack, 19 slashing damage. And they have a throwing axe. Range 11, 5 attack, although that's not really true because it's a range weapon. Precision is -4, and they only have 2 of them. That being said, I actually find that these do more than you think they would do. One of the problems we have as Abysia is we tend to get the mosh pit built up in the middle of the map, and you have lots and lots of troops that are just standing around not participating. Well, you might as well have axe throwers in your second line who can throw a couple axes, and then when they get to the front, they have the same weapon. Yeah, their shield's a little bit less, but hopefully by that point, you've thinned out the enemy ranks. They're a little tired or wounded. I like these guys quite a bit. I do. Again, remember that with only a range 11, that's not very far. So even having the really bad precision isn't as bad as you think it is. It's kind of like sticks and stones. You just kind of throw a lot of things in the air and somebody's going to get hit. So actually a pretty big thumbs up for me on these Abyssian throwers. Quite nice. They have their same things here, the 15 fire resist, etc. I like them. I like them a lot. Next up, we have the Warbred. These are very nice. 30 gold, 35 resources, 28 recruitment points. So these are not cheap. You are definitely paying for these. They also go up in size to size 4, so you only get 2 of these per square. 22 HP, 15 strength, 11 attack is really nice. Good morale at 14. Their magic resistance is a distinct weak point. For other things, they're only 5 fire resistance. Everyone else we have is 15. So that is significant if you're going to do something like Firestorm. Just note that these guys may burn in there, although at 22 HP, they can probably handle it. In addition, they have Berserker +2. So if you use, say, a Firestorm or, say, Bloodletting to just give them a little poke and get them riled up, you can get +2 on your Berserking, which will give you extra strength and extra attack. So you would be attacking with your Battle Axe at 14 attack, and I believe that's going to take it up to 30 damage, which is quite significant. Now we're starting to be able to chip away at monoliths if we have to. Defense-wise, we have a plate halberd and a half helmet, giving him just a solid 18 on everything. Do note, no natural protection. That is an area where maybe you could find some earth to give them some buffs or temper their armor or give them bark skin if somehow you brought some nature in. They would really like that, and that would actually take them to be pretty difficult to finish off between the Berserk. And I guess Berserk's going to raise their protection a little bit too, so quite nice. They're also combat speed 9, so they are tied with our faster troops here. I like these guys a lot, especially later on when you can kind of ensure that they're going to Berserk. Something like Bloodletting is a good way to do that. Very nice troop. I like them. No, nothing we've talked about so far has been cap only, so these are all standard troops for us. Finally, we have the Guardian of the Pyre. This is our cap only sacred. 30 gold, 28 resources, 14 recruitment points. Not breaking the bank, but we're some of the last Abyssians, so we are not a human chassis, despite our size 3. 17 HP, 14 strength, 11 attack, 13 morale, and 12 magic resistance. Those are pretty good stats. We are a notably not human sacred. Trait-wise, we have, of course, sacred, 25 fire resist. We have a heat aura. Notice none of our other guys did, so this is a place where we still have that. We have the wasteland survival and the dark vision. We're wielding a morning star. We're pretty decent with it at 12, and remember we can get +2 for attacking shields, and we do 20 piercing or blunt damage, which is pretty decent. Do note this isn't a magic morning star though, and in late age, one of our big boogeymen is Lemuria, and they're all ghosts, so I would consider getting magic weapons just to make sure that you can poke through there. Otherwise, though, I don't love magic weapons here, so I don't know. That's a bit of a you have to look at your lobby and decide what you're going to do. Defense-wise, we have a plate halberd, an iron cap, and a tower shield. So the same as our other heavy troops. Overall, having the heat aura in an army that everyone else is fire resistance is great. Nice to be able to bring that a little bit back into the army. They look super cool. I like these guys quite a bit, although Hellblessed, probably not. This is just, it is more than human. I don't want to call this a human sacred, but it's not a stellar sacred with multiple attacks or some other crazy thing. It's just a solid sacred unit. Heroes, commanders, and prophet. For heroes, we have 3. We have the Anathemant Warlock. He has 3 fire, 3 blood, 3 priest levels. He has Fire resistance at 30. He has a big heat aura, has our wasteland survival, our dark vision. He comes in at old. He's an adept crossbreeder 8, and he has grand communicant. Grand communicant is a way that you can artificially boost the difficulty for people to dispel your rituals. I'm on the fence on this. This is more of a multiplayer thing, but it is nice. You can have extra communicants cast your ritual, and that will save you some gems or just push your ritual even harder to dispel. Either way, pretty nice. Overall, he doesn't really bring anything that we don't have, but he's a freebie. Sure, why not? We have Slayer. This is, I believe, yeah, he's one of the first demon breeds that was ever created, and he's one of the few survivors. He is an assassin. Fire resistance, has heat, is flying, is stealthy, wasteland survival, dark vision, and ambidextrous 3. Overall, I tend to find he gets killed. You would sure like to give him a little bit of gear if you want to use him, and why not? He's cool. A bracer protection is a cheap way to bring this up a little bit. Give him a helmet of some sort, maybe a burning pearl to up his attack to 20 and really ensure that he's going to be able to stab people. He is ambidextrous 3, which kind of makes me wish he had something bigger than poison daggers too. So ambidextrous lowers the length of weapons and thus the attack penalty from wielding multiple weapons. So going up to like rank 1 weapons just to increase that damage a little bit, maybe, I don't know, Bane blades or something, anathema blades. I think there's a size 1, whatever. I think you could go larger on your weapons here and it would pay off for you. Finally, we have Slayer Dragon. Another sacred assassin. He is fire 3. He is death 2, priest level 3. He actually has poison resistance. Otherwise, he's very similar to what we were just looking at. Again, he's fun and cool. You might as well use him. Burning Pearl, I think, is a big one here. Yes, it does lower his assassin, but +4 attack. At 20 attack, he's probably not going to miss too much. Could be a nice little item for him. Going up to our standard line of commanders, this isn't actually as big as it looks because we have some that are quite similar. First up, we have Slayer Newt. This is our first assassin. 110 gold, 10 resources, 1 recruitment point. He's a sacred assassin with fire resistance, stealthy, wasteland survival, dark vision, assassin 2, and ambidextrous. Comes in with leather cap and a chainmail cuirass, poison daggers. Do note, he is sacred but cannot bless himself. So you would need a bottle of holy water, or you'd have to bring him into fights for some reason. I don't think I would do that. If you did want to use them and you did have a way to get holy water, pretty cheap assassin here, but we have other options. Yeah, let's do our commander. Abysian commander, 100 gold, 26 resources, 1 recruitment point. He has Abysian blood, so he is better than human. 14 HP. He has a 12 strength, 11 attack, 100 leadership, 12 morale, 11 magic resistance. Is wearing our heavier gear, so he's got 17 protection. Wields a battle axe. Perfectly fine troop. I would consider getting one of these guys and giving him a tiny bit of gear so that you can win arenas. Something like a great sword of sharpness and maybe boots of strength, a burning pearl, and a bracer protection. I think that would be a really relatively cheap. That's like less than 20-ish gems, and that will make him into a pretty nasty little monster. The strongest? No, but very budget, and you can just build more of them. It's not like he's a hero or something. So just a little food for thought on that one. Otherwise, perfectly fine leadership. Do note he only has normal leadership, no magic or undead, so can't lead anything else around. Next, we have the Slayer Worm. Now we're jumping back to assassins. This is an upgrade of the first one we looked at, and my preferred one. Depending on your bless, these guys actually can do pretty decent assassin expansion, and they can bless themselves, and that's what really does it for you. Otherwise, this is the same guy. You're paying 20 for the priest level. I think that's worthwhile. Do note they are stealthy and they have priests, so they can stealth breach. I don't know if Abysia is really into that. Remember, we can do blood sacrifices, so if we have to push Dominion, we have a way to do it. But, I mean, it's cool. It's interesting. I think these are pretty good. Maybe, I don't want to say they're the best assassin in the game because there's some like crazy stuff out there, but the best sacred spammable assassin, I think he's definitely on that list somewhere. Next up, we have Newt. Newt is a Fire 1, Priest 1, can join our communicants. These are okay. Fire 1's not a great path. I would really want to give him probably like a jar of fire, and then he would do Phoenix power at the beginning of combat to take him to a Fire 2. Fire 2s are much more combat capable. Otherwise, I'm not in love with this unit, really. It could be your researcher. We have 7 research for 48 gold, so I consider that pretty efficient. They're fine. I have no complaints here, really. Next up, we have the Sanguine Acolyte. It's essentially the same guy, but instead of Fire 1, he has Blood 1. And ironically enough, I find that a little more useful. These can be some early blood hunters for you. They can also be some early blood crafters for you. Also, they can join into Sabbaths to support your Sabbath work, which is pretty nice. And they are sacred, so they'll get whatever bless you get. Do note on the Newt, he has 10 magic leadership, but no undead leadership. 60 on normal leadership too, which is not terrible. On the Sanguine Acolyte, he actually gains 10 undead leadership. We actually do have an undead unit we might be interested in beyond just the generic stuff. Also remember that demons are undead leadership. So a pretty usable mage here. Very expendable for blood hunting if you're worried about that. Could be something you could make happen here. Next up, we have the Sanguine Anathemant. This is a Fire 1, Blood 2, Priest level 2, same otherwise. Our leadership has gone up. We are at 60, 30, 20. 295 gold isn't cheap, but that's not terrible either. Is this going to be your most efficient blood hunter? No, but if you give this guy a Sanguine Dowsing Rod, he's not terrible. He can bless himself depending on your bless, which makes him a little more resilient to dying to the assassination attempts that tends to happen to those guys. It's all right. I do tend to like to get these guys to be my blood hunters when I can. 118 gold per year is relatively cheap for a blood 2, and then plus a Sanguine Dowsing Rod will make them pretty efficient. Next up, we have the Anathemant Salamander. This is a Fire 2, Death 1, Priest 2, otherwise the same. Note our leadership has gone up again. 70 leadership, 20 and 50 on undead. 295 gold isn't the worst. He's not slow to recruit. Fire 2, Death 1 is a pretty decent pathing. Fire 2 is very good. That gets us up to Fire 3 for combat, which is very capable. And the little bit of death in there isn't terrible either. You can do Banefire darts if your targets would be better against your targets than normal fire. So at least you have a tiny bit of versatility there. You could get Skeletal Body buff is another one, which will help you maybe be able to survive a crossbow bolt. Maybe. But it does give them something else that they can do at least. Other than that, though, Death 1 isn't really a great combat path. You really need Death 2 to do anything, so you're kind of paying for a path that's a little bit iffy, but in this case, with giving them access to Banefire darts, I think I'm okay with that. Next up, we have the Slayer Amethyst. This is a cap only. This is a Fire 1, Priest level 2 with a random of Fire or Death Assassin. So a Death 1 Assassin can spam some skeletons, which makes them pretty darn good. Also could do Banefire Dart. Also could be a Fire 2 Assassin. These are 270 gold, though. I don't actually like these. I think these are too expensive. You're going to lose Assassins no matter how well things go. I think I would stick down to the Slayer Worm personally. But maybe somebody has something special they would like to do with this. Next up, we have a Slayer Sanguine. This is a Blood 2, Priest 2 Assassin. He is wielding Athema, which are nasty, nasty weapons. They have partial life drain, which is very, very dangerous. Not only will it heal you, it will lower your fatigue. But I believe there was a change in combat scripting. I don't think assassins will spend blood slaves anymore. This used to be one of the best assassins in the game because he could just spam imp summons. And once you get out like 8 imps, there's basically nothing that's going to stop that during an assassination attempt. However, I don't believe they do that anymore. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty certain that I read that that had changed. And because of that, I don't like this guy particularly. There is some other blood stuff that might be vaguely useful, but again, I think the budget option of Slayer Worms is just more my style at least. Next, we have a Warlock Apprentice. The Warlock Apprentice is a Astral 1, Blood 2. Has 11 research, but no, not sacred. So 152 gold per year is a little on the pricey side. That's pretty inefficient for just plain research. 190 gold, though, is not going to break the bank and is not slow to recruit, although is cap only. He does have Adept Crossbreeder, but we have better ones, and I don't think you want to use a weak Crossbreeder. That's not a cheap ritual, per se, so a few of these guys would be fine. They could do some astral searching. They could also be blood hunters, but remember, the other guy was, I think, what was he? This is 152. If we look at you, yeah, 118. This guy is more efficient to be your blood hunters than the warlocks, ironically enough. Next up, we have the Warlock. This is another cap only, and this guy's going to compete with our other cap only big mage, which is unfortunate because this is a nice mage. 400 gold, not slow to recruit, so pricey. 19 HP is pretty good. He is an Abysian, so that's where he's getting his extra oomph. He is Astral 2, Blood 3, and has a random of Fire, Earth, Astral, Blood. So you can actually be pretty darn high. 4 blood is nothing to shake a stick at, or 3 astral, 3 blood. You can do send horrors, etc., etc. Pretty darn nice mage. He is an adept crossbreeder, although only 6, but that's not, again, not terrible. It's better than the 2 we were just looking at. So definitely going to want a few of these guys. You could have them do blood hunting. You could be a blood 4 plus a sanguine dowsing rod, but there's a diminishing returns on how much upkeep you're paying for that, and just the danger that they're going to be in. So I don't think these guys are going to get to go out and do blood hunting. I think they're going to actually do magical work for you. And this is a pretty spooky combination of paths. Finally, we have the Anathemant Dragon. He is a Fire 2, Death 1, Holy 3, with a random of Fire or Death. Now you pay for that. 405 gold, is slow to recruit cap only. Not as high of stats as we saw before, only 12 HP, but that's a nice pathing, especially if you get Fire 3 or Death 2. You can do lots of nice stuff with that. Same spells basically, but ritual-wise, we can do some things that otherwise we couldn't reach, like make a skull staff. That would be handy for us. Yeah, just a good mage. He is our access to priest level 3, so we do have recruitable Holy 3s, which is always nice. We're not limited to just our God and our Prophet. So appreciated there. You're probably not going to get a bajillion of these guys. 2 fire and a death is basically the same as this guy. So you're really getting him for his priest level. So you're going to want a few of these, probably 1 per army ideally, but not going to go to town. He's fine, very usable. Overall, pretty good lineup up here. As you can see, fire, very good. Astral, blood, very good. A tiny bit of the earth. So the earth is more of a sprinkle. You're not going to get to use a ton of that. You may even consider wanting to get somebody who can forge you earth power boots, because if you get an earth 1, going up to earth 2 opens up the good earth stuff. And our troops would love to have like temper armor or other protection buffs. So that's one route you could take to try to do that. Who would I make my prophet? In this case, I think you have a couple options. We could go on a priest level 3 and make him priest level 4. Most of our army, I think everybody, okay, 13, 14, and then we go down to 10. So the bulk of our army is only 10 morale, and our leader is only going to give them a +1. We're actually a little skittish, weirdly enough. So having fanaticism to be able to just do a sermon of courage to everyone is kind of nice. So I think there's an option there. Just a standard, I'm a tough prophet, just on a normal Abyssian commander would be fine. Gives him something to do. He is wearing defensive gear, so maybe give him a shield and a lane 3 weapon just for some extra protection, and go to town as the prophet. But you also have the option, I think, of doing one of your assassins. An assassin prophet is pretty disgusting, depending on which smite you end up getting. So I think any of those 3 could be good, depending on what you're looking to do. National items and spells. As for national items, we have no national items. As for national spells, we actually have several of them, and pretty decent ones to boot. First up, we have Summon Abyssian Ancestors in Conjuration. Nice and early, and a pretty good one to boot. It's Death 1 and Fire 1, which we can natively do. It's only 5 death gems. Now, we don't have any death gem income in general, so I do think that getting out and doing death searching is very important for us. You get 7 Ancestral Abyssians for 5 gems. These summon in Smolder Ghosts. We'll look at these after we're done with the spells. They are quite nice. Spoilers, they're a summonable sacred unit, which you know my feelings on that. Pretty excited. Beyond that, we also have Pride of Lions, because of course we do. What nation's complete if you don't have Pride of Lions? We have no native nature. It's lions. I don't care for it. They don't even have the benefit of dark vision because we already can do dark vision. So kind of a womp womp on that. We also have Contact Scorpion Man up at 8. Scorpion Men are fine. They have fear, but it's at 8, and it's something that's actually kind of hard for us to do. And we probably have better things to do with Earth Gems than save up for these guys, unfortunately. In Alteration, at 6, we have Hellscape. 4 fire is doable for us natively, although that would be relatively rare. We would need to random into fires, but that's fine. We could definitely get there. 10 fire gems, and this is a ritual, 5 province range. Heat scales +3, death scales +1, minus 10% population, unrest +20. Now, we're not nearly as dependent on fighting in fire as we were in ages past, but we would still prefer to do it, especially if our enemy is not comfortable in heat scales, or if our enemy would prefer to fight in the cold. Do remember there's a weird order of operations where it's the ritual goes off, combats happen, and then temperatures change. We learned that in Middle Age. So kind of a weirdity. If you're going to try to do this offensively, you need to do it a turn in advance to when you're going to try to attack. So you kind of tip in your hand a little bit, which is unfortunate. But with the minus 10% population and a death scale, you also could just blast somebody's like capital or a citadel and just kill off all their pop while raising their unrest so that they can't recruit. Kind of a nasty little spell here that's pretty easy for us to cast. We have a lot of fire income anyways, so pretty usable, I would say. Next in Evocation, at Evo 5, we still have Liquid Flames of Rocks. Still a good spell, although very difficult. We have to random into an Earth, which I believe is a quarter chance on our big guys. But if you did happen to get one, perfectly fine spell. AoE 1, not very fatiguing, does 24 plus magic fire damage, that is armor piercing, and gives you a big splash of molten metal at AoE 6 with 10 armor piercing magic fire damage, and leaves a cloud. So nasty, nasty, nasty spell, although we're not going to have a ton of casters who can actually make use of it, unfortunately. Next in Enchantment, we have a couple. At 5, we have Inner Furnace. This one, not as useful as it used to be. It is an entire battlefield enchantment, 100 fatigue, costs a fire gem. It only affects hot units, so if you have a heat aura, and it makes you get a larger heat aura. I do think this is usable because we don't have a ton of units who have heat auras. By making them bigger, we can just get better coverage. If I had this spell, I would probably cast it. Would I rush for this? Absolutely not. Secondly, we have Reawakened Fossil. Now, unfortunately here, 2 Earth is not something we can natively do, and it's 2 Earth and a death, so you're going to have to build something to do this or empower somebody to do this. Again, is that what I'm going to spend my rare Earth gems on? Especially if I built somebody that can do this, then that means I could do Dwarven Hammers and I could do Earth Boots. I don't know, but what do you get? 5 plus giant fossilized skeletons. These are actually pretty good. And they're skeletons that don't require death. So again, just a way to diversify your gem usage. They could find some use there. We'll look at them here in a second. Finally, in Blood Magic, we have our Infernal Breeding. We just have the 1 level of it. So for a Blood 2, which you obviously can get easily, we can recruit just straight up Blood 3s and get up to Blood 4s. 25 Blood Slaves gets you a 16 plus summon. And we'll take a look at those chassis. This is a very good spell. I think you are going to want to do this to expand your army. There's some pretty disgusting things you can get out of that. First up, Pride of Lions. They're lions. They have dark vision. They're undisciplined, whatever. Scorpion Man, very good. This is just a unit. He has fear. He is a magic being. Has bows. Has gazes of fear. Great unit. Just, I don't know if you ever get to the point that you're really summoning tons of these. Smolder Ghost. This is our Conjuration 2 spell, and I like these a lot. Yes, you're not guaranteed to have death gems to summon them in, but it's only 5 and you get 7 of them, I believe. Oh no. And I just see that somehow I went into be right back. I'm totally back. Let's ignore that. Overall, he is a really good chassis. 15 HP, 13 strength, 11 attack, 16 morale, 14 magic resistance. That's pretty darn good. Sacred, fire resistance 25, poison resistance 25, is an undead, doesn't eat, has a heat aura, is ethereal, has spirit form. Note, spirit form is bad. You can't do protection buffs generally. Wasteland survival and spirit sight. Completely unarmored, 0 protection. That's a weakness. Wielding a spectral weapon. Spectral weapons are not the best. So this is... He has 12 attack with it. It is a length 2. You will get a surprising amount of repels with that. Is a slashing magic damage that does 24, but it's magic resistance for half. So that's a little unfortunate. Now, on the bright side, if you did take a magic pen bless, it would affect this. And we have other things that would like a bless like that. So that's something. Extra effect on damage, spectral fire, which is 8 magic fire damage. That is armor piercing. That's really good, and that really helps us with the half damage thing. So as long as we deal 1 point of damage, we'll do spectral fire, and they'll take 8 more, or have a chance to take 8 more. Note this one doesn't say magic resistance for half or negates or anything. I like these guys quite a bit. I think if you're gonna try to make big use of them, though, they do need a little bit of a bless. Even without a bless, I would still do it. It's our best dump for death gems. I would take these over normal skeletons for sure. And they're sacred, so they'll get some use out of whatever you bring in. I like them a lot. I definitely like these guys quite a lot. Next up, we have that fossilized giant. Pretty interesting here. A 26 protection undead skeleton. They're size 6, so they can actually push forward in lines of combat, which is always useful. As a skeleton undead, they have amphibian, they're pierce resistance, fire resistance, cold resistance, poison resistance. They are magic beings in addition to undead, so a lot of weaknesses here. They are inanimate, however, so you don't have to worry about, or inanimate and mindless, so you don't have to worry about certain spells, but shatterable, banishable, celestial oppositional, that's a lot of weaknesses here. But if they're not prepped for that, a 26 protection skeleton that has a 12 attack with 26 damage is pretty good. And he actually has some armor on, weirdly enough. So if you're doing any kind of protection buffing, you can apply that to him. He's actually relatively fast too. Never heals, so you do have to take him to a lab to heal him up. But I think these guys are fine. It's just, I don't know if I'd ever spend the Earth Gems on them. I think we have other high protection troops anyways. This doesn't bring anything super unique, but I like them. They're good. Nothing wrong with that. Next up, we have a whole slew of hell spawns, and these are what our infernal breeding is going to bring us. I'm not going to go into too much depth here, but we have things like a flying salamander that has a bite and an AoE 1 fire damage. We have another guy with a AoE 1 fire damage. We have a guy wearing a plate halberd with an AoE 1 fire damage. These guys are amazing, by the way. Wielding a flail. This dude has 3 attacks and an AoE fire. These are redonkulous. Take care of these guys if you get them, because they're really, really, really good. A really bad guy who has venomous fangs. Another bad guy with venomous fangs, although flying, so you could attack rear. That's something. Venomous fangs, a fist, and a barbed tail. Does have a magic attack, so that's at least vaguely interesting. And a bunch of poison damage. He does do death poison, so there is that. Hellspawn, again, look at this guy. Plate halberd, iron cap, and he has a lance. A flying lanced Abysian. These guys are really cool. It's been a while since I've gotten any of those. We also have just Hellspawn. Again, multiple attacks and has an AoE fire damage spell. Or attack, not spell. These ones actually have fire power, so they like to be in your heat. Overall, no major stinkers here, although I don't think we can get like Hellspawn giants anymore or things like that, which is unfortunate. Those were really good. Now, this may not be an exhaustive list, and I did do quite a few infernal breeding summons. I just didn't luck into that. For infernal breeding, I should note, it is affected by scales. And generally speaking, I believe you want high turmoil and you want either high luck or very bad misfortune. just the way that the rolls are made on the table, you want one of those two. So I do think you either want to go big misfortune or big fortune if you're planning on doing any infernal breeding. Overall, most of these are pretty good. I feel like there's less stinkers than in some other similar spells. So quite nice there, actually. Beyond that, in Magic, I'm going to make just a few quick callouts. We're a fire nation, so a lot of the normal stuff applies. So, of course, fire elementals. And I do think you probably want to go up to full-size ones. We can easily do a Phoenix Power with a jar of fire and then pop out a full-size fire elemental on most of our battle mages who are fire 2s. That's pretty darn nice. In Conjuration 4, we can do fire drakes. Fire drakes are great because we have 15 fire resistance on most of our troops, so they can stand behind our troops and breathe through them. Very nasty. When we see these guys on thrones, I just groan because I know I'm going to have horrendous amounts of attrition. Nest of Salamanders. This is a relatively easy to cast. It's only 2 fire. Gives you 10 plus. It is tiring, but you get a bunch of size 1 fire snakes that have fire poison, which hits really hard, although they're not good at it. But they're just lots of size 1s to fill in extra spots and keep things busy. So I actually like that quite a bit. Oftentimes, I'll have like 1 to 3 guys cast this in addition to other people casting fire elementals, just to have some more things on the field. Beyond that, the only other thing I'm really going to call is Flame Spirit at 6. These give you a Fire 3 mage for 30 gems. Maybe that's interesting to you. Maybe not. Going into Alteration. Alteration, ironically enough, is not very good for us. We cap out at Earth 1, and that's rare Earth 1. I will note, we have Distilled Gold. And I do think we're a nation that may consider that at certain points. It's only 10 gems. We have tons of people who can easily cast it. Consider it. I know some people absolutely hate this spell, but I love alchemy. Gets me the money I need to get infrastructure up so I can get out more mages, so I can do more blood hunting, so I can build labs and temples. I think there's a place for this for sure. Beyond that, though, again, we just don't have these paths. We could do some of the fire stuff, but it's not particularly relevant. We don't have the cross path for Inner Sun. Combustion, might as well just hit him with a real fire spell. Incinerate can be good. It might be worth considering empowering a Fire 3 into Astral so that you can Solar Eclipse. All of our troops have dark vision, so being able to drop darkness on people when they're not expecting it could be pretty darn nice. We don't have the best attack on our line troops, and giving the enemy -3 defense would really help us out on hitting them with our otherwise relatively hard-hitting weapons. So I think there's definitely something here if you can swing into it. Not something we can natively do, although that's very doable. Baleful Star, again, we can get Astral 3s easily. Popping one of these onto an enemy army before you attack just makes it more likely that they will take afflictions when they are damaged. So it lowers the threshold to take afflictions. That is a pretty nice little thing to do and not that expensive. Doubly so if you can hit like an enemy god or super combatant type troop. We can spam blindness, although again, I'd rather just hit him with a real fire spell generally. Phoenix Pyre is something that we could do. This is where you explode and reform as long as you don't fatigue out. But we're not able to do summon Earth Power, and we're not able to do Soul Vortex easily. So unless you're doing one of those two things, this kind of drops off pretty hard. Evocation, I think the big ones here are Fireball at 3 is very good. We don't have to worry too much about friendly fire here. Does good damage, leaves lingering clouds, is armor piercing. Pretty darn nice. I would probably get this relatively early. This could even be like, if you went Conj 3, Evo 3, you could start a war and maybe add Construction 3 for a Jar of Fire. So now you can summon in fire elementals and spam fireballs. I think that's a pretty good lineup for anything that doesn't have fire resistance. Going beyond that, do note we also have, where are you at? Banefire darts at 4. These are pretty gross. They're pretty high precision. They do 15 plus armor piercing damage that does AoE decay. So if you're fighting things that have fire resistance, this is not fire damage. So that's normally I don't like mages that are like 2 or 3 paths because you generally are only using one path. But while I prefer to do fire most of the time, in a situation where I'm fighting somebody immune to it, now at least I have a secondary option. Banefire, this is going to be pretty hard for us to do. We'd have to luck into a Death 2 and then give him a Skull Staff. But if you did, these guys have 55 plus damage on an AoE 1. Then an AoE 6 for 8 armor piercing damage. Then a large area decay AoE 12. Magic resistance negates. I think this is fine. I think if you could get a few of these out, especially if you do it early before your lines have clashed, so you don't have to worry about the friendly fire. I think this is pretty good. Range 45 plus, if you position forward and launch these, you may be able to just, by hitting the front line, you might hit the mages that are behind them and decay them, which would be pretty darn nice for you. Beyond that, of course, we're going to have Falling Fires at 5, which is more likely to be able to be cast than the Flames of Rocks. Hidden Flame, again, if you had that guy that you empowered, that could be something. Firestorm at 7, I think, is one of our goals, just being able to put that up. Note that 6 AP fire damage is a little much for our 5 fire resist war breeds, but everyone else is going to be just fine. They'll like the warm breeze during combat. Moving on from there, construction, Jars of Fire, very good. Some like light thug gear is useful for us. Skull staves are useful for us. Assassin items are useful for us. We can do imps for a research booster. Yes, it's only 3, but they only use blood slaves. So no reason not to get those out on your cheap researchers and reap that benefit. We could do Schools of Knowledge, but spending our death gems on those when I could get Smolder Ghosts is a pretty hard pill to swallow. I don't know if I would do that. Up at, I believe it's 7, we get Lightless Lanterns, which are huge, but when you're going to have time to go up to 7, I don't know. And enchantment, again, not the best one for us. Yes, you could do a little bit of Skelly spamming and it wouldn't be terrible for you. We could do Reanimate Archers. This is another good one. If for some reason you didn't like Smolder Ghosts or you had too many, I don't know how you got to that point, but if you did, these are nice. They do Banefire arrows, which are pretty disgusting, and gives us some more range option. Beyond those guys, Terracotta Army, again, could be useful. It is fire gems, and it does give us terracotta soldiers and a lot of them. This is a way you could get underwater, maybe? Maybe that'd give you some underwater troops that aren't the absolute worst. If you could find a way to get your other people underwater, your leadership, that is, could be something. Fire Shield, of course, is nice. This could be used on our Fire 1 assassins. Could be a thing that could be useful. Beyond that, Heat from Hell. Heat clouds appear all over the battlefield. We'll be fine. We'll be immune to that. Enemy would have to fight inside that. That would be pretty nice. Thaumaturgy. The Battle Fury line, our line troops would really appreciate a +2 attack, +2 morale. That would be a really good buff for them. You could do the Frighten and Terror stuff a tiny bit, although you're not going to be the best at it. And for Astral, of course, Mind Burn would be useful. Teleporting, Paralysis, Soul Slay, these are all within our reach. We can get to Gateway relatively easily, move troops around that way. We do have our Warlocks with decent leadership, so we can move some troops around and surprise people there. Finally, in Blood, all the blood goodies apply, really. Summon Imps in combat can be pretty nice for just having disruption that hits into the enemy line. If you didn't want to use assassins to scout, you could summon in some Shadow Imps. Beyond those ones, Infernal Breeding, of course. Bind Devils. Devils are pretty decent. Hold and Attack Rears, they're pretty darn nasty for killing enemy mages. Hellfire, expensive, but a pretty nasty little spell. Bloodlust, if you do have demons on the board, you can go ahead and give them the into strength. I believe it's +4, so that's pretty handy. We can't do Blood Fecundity natively, but if you lucked into some way to get to Blood 2, Nature 2, I would strongly consider this, since we are going to do a lot of blood hunting, and we're probably going to have Heat and Death Scales, so that's going to be pretty nasty. Going up to 5, if you built somebody that has some Earth, you could do Demon Knights. Demon Knights did get a little bit of a nerf, but they're still really, really good. Bloodletting, I mentioned this one earlier. The entire battlefield takes 1 armor negating damage. These are great for making our war breeds go berserk just automatically. Quite nice. Later on in combat, this might be another way to maybe force a enemy rout if they're already kind of on the edge. Just everybody taking 8 points of damage is a lot of morale rolls that might need to be rolled. Blood Rain, again, another great way we can easily cast this, and enemy will just build up to -5 morale. So another way we could spook things off the field. Hull Horror. These are really nasty, although be careful, they will attack your own troops at times too. Send Dream Horror at 7. We can reach this relatively easily. And this is a Unrest plus 30, and we leave a Dream Horror there. I believe until they kill it, it will stay in the province. Yeah. Unrest will increase in the province until the horror is found and slain. So this is not a low amount of unrest. If you send a Dream Horror and a Hellscape, that is already 50 unrest. They're going to really struggle to be able to recruit out of a province that has 50 unrest. And that's in 1 turn. Turn 2, you just do it again. So pretty disgusting there. I didn't call it out, but we also at 6 have Bloodright. We could start summoning in some vampires. Be careful with vampires and your fire damage, but as long as you don't have a accident, that should be pretty good. 8. This is going to be difficult. You'd probably have to build a pretender for this, but you could go full vampire lords. We are going to build a pretty hefty blood economy, so that is something maybe at the end you could get there. Also, I'll call out Life for Life. We can easily cast this. Blood Mage sacrifices a blood slave in exchange for one of his foes being slain. So pretty darn nice there. Great way that you could possibly just straight up win an arena or kill a super combatant, etc., etc. It is armor negating, but note it doesn't say magic resistance negates. So you just kill them. Just you're dead. Pretty darn nice. Okay, let's bring all of that together. Late Age Abysia is still trucking along. We still have some pretty high protection troops. We are still good at fire, we're still good at blood, and we're still good at astral. All good things. We are definitely a nation that needs production, and we probably need order to help with our blood hunting and our recruitment points. We can take heat, we can take death if we would like to with those reduced penalties. So pretty strong scales nation with a okay sacred, a good sacred summon, and a lot of sacred mages. So big flexibility actually on what you might want to create for your pretender. Overall, pretty just solid nation. Is it the best? No, but it's definitely not the worst either. In this game here, this was my cap. I got 2 and a tier 3 throne. My first way out of my cave had another throne on top of it. So by year 1, I had like 4 provinces, and yet I'm still doing really well. I'm finishing off Raga here. I've got a solid border. I've got multiple citadels built. Another one coming up here. I'm blood hunting like everything that has over 8,000 pop. I've been doing a bunch of summons. I got Smolder Ghosts. I have a bunch of Fire Drakes. Other guys down here. We have a bunch of Infernal Breeding troops. So done really well for myself. We can, as you see here, have cave starts. So that can be an advantage. There's not a ton of cave dwellers in late age, so you are pretty likely to just have a cave to yourself. Depending on your map spawn, that can be pretty good, or it could be kind of mediocre like what I got on this one. Pretenders and scales. As previously mentioned, I do believe that Abysia is a scale nation. You're going to want order. You're going to need production. You can take high heat. You can take high death. And then you can go either way really on fortune and on magic. So for me, I'm looking for something that's going to give me some pretty decent scales while still being able to do some kind of bless, whether that's going to be for troops or for mages perhaps. Chassis-wise, we have a couple uniques. We have the Great Warlock. He has only 80 points, which is quite a little steal here. Comes in with Blood 1, Abysian stats, does have Adept Crossbreeder 8, compared to the Freak Lord, who is 100 points and has less traits and he is a slightly better adept crossbreeder. I think I'm willing to trade 2 for 20 design points and the other traits that we get. Moving up into Dom 2, we do have the Azzy. Azzy is a pretty nasty little dragon if you are a dragon enjoyer. He doesn't bring a ton here. In fact, he lowers the amount of order we can have, which isn't great. He does shapeshift into that great warlock we looked at. Chaos power, again, we kind of want order, so you're probably still going to go order 1, which hurts his stats a lot. So in that case, maybe you do something with turmoil, but I would be leery about that because we do want those nice troops that we can summon in. He has Dragon Master, so he could summon in lots of dragons and drakes and stuff for you. Does have fear. Yeah, I don't know. No magic paths on base, and it's 80 for a new path. That's a hard one to swallow for me. Beyond him, we do have some classics. If you wanted something to go underwater, you could get the Worm. Man-Eater's vaguely useful. Again, though, we don't really love those turmoil scales in this case. Just look and see what other ones we have. I do like the Myrmicolian. I think he's pretty decent. Yeah, not in love with a lot of the monsters. Titans, same thing. We do have Netter of many names. Her big claim to fame, not only is she an adept researcher, she's an inspiring researcher, has magic power, and her new paths are only 20. Most Titans have 60 or 80 for their pathing. So you can actually get something at a reasonable price for her, although 240 points is pretty dang expensive for a chassis that is going to stay home and research anyways. I mean, if that's the case, why not just take the Great Sage? Yeah, he's 1 less, but he costs less than half price. So I don't know. Hard sell on that one a bit. Beyond that, we don't need the extra fire. We probably don't want extra growth or death. Extra order on the Netter of Many Kings. He does have some interesting pathing. He does also increase your order limit. Maybe something, although we already have order, don't we? So let me back out here. No, we don't actually have plus order. So we could actually use the plus order. We could go up to order 3. That wouldn't be terrible. I don't hate that idea. But then again, it just would depend on what kind of blessing you wanted to give him. Going up to Dominion 4s, we do have the Bronze Colossus. Not my favorite thing ever, but if you want a disgusting super combatant, and new path cost is only 40, so you might be able to add something to this. Probably go on hard skin here, which takes him up to 31, and then when he buffs himself, he probably gets to like 35-ish. That's pretty gross. Give him Air 2, and then he can Cloud Trapeze, and he can Mistform himself. Have fun killing something with, let's say, 35 protection that is resistant to all mundane weapons, and can Mistform, and can Cloud Trapeze. That could be pretty gross. How bad do we need to kill our scales for this? So hard skin, he has to go dormant. We have 132, so let's go there. Actually, you know, I don't hate that. And you get 1 scale, something like that. That is not terrible, actually. I could play that. Yes, he's dormant, so you're not going to get the advantage of the Awake Expander, but for a first war, you could easily have Iron Skin researched and Personal Mistform, and I think a lot of things are going to really struggle to take that out. He isn't inanimate, so people can shatter him, but beyond that, he is mindless, which protects him from a lot of other really gross things. He does have poison, cold, fire, shock resist, pierce, blunt, slash resist. Is amphibious, so that's a way you could get underwater. I actually don't hate that. And with the big earth, he could do a big temper armor for your army. He could do big protection for your army, big strength. He actually brings in some utility. I don't hate that guy. You know what? Jumane, you can come on in. Beyond him, let's take a look at some things I created. I don't think, well, here, let's go back in there. Abysia. I don't think any of these others are super amazing. You do have the Divine Glyph, which is relatively cheap. It does give you that extra astral. If you were going to go something high water, which is probably quickness, I don't think we go quickness. I'm not in love with the God blocks. Yeah, I'm not in love with a lot of these other ones. I think Sacred Geyser, the Divine Glyph, and the Bronze Colossus are vaguely interesting, but beyond that, I'm not so certain. Let's take a look at a couple other ones I created here. Oh, down to late age. All right, this is Malik, the Great Warlock. He has Undying, Stygian Flesh, and Enchanted Blood. He is dormant. We have good scales with Order 2, Production 2, Heat 3, Death 2, Fortune 2, Magic 2. So you can, the Undying and Enchanted Blood is fine enough to get you started. Once Stygian Flesh comes in, that's really nice. Just all of our mages can just have 10 invulnerability. A lot of them are either, I think they're just naked. I don't think they have robes. So that'll help them just not die to a stray hit from something. The extra HP is okay on Undying, and we have Enchanted Blood, which extra magic resistance for our Smolder Ghost not to be banished, and just the little bit of regen actually makes a big difference on our high protection sacreds and our ethereal sacreds. So overall, I like this one quite a bit. He also brings in some versatility here. The high death means we can do some death stuff. The earth is really nice for getting some dwarven hammers and some other gear out. Yeah, I think these are just fine. I tend to find he has good utility. He does a little bit of crafting, does a little bit of research. We could do a big death ritual. We could do blood stuff. We can do the adept crossbreeding if you don't have somebody better. I like this guy, just a utility piece more than anything else. Next, we have Hot Thoth. Hot Thoth here. Adept researcher, inspiring researcher. I think, I don't know. I was trying to do something different here. I don't think this really worked out. So I took larger and reinvigoration. Just larger in general is just a lot of stats. It does take our sacreds from size 3 to 4, which isn't particularly great. The Smolder Ghosts can benefit from the larger. This just gives mages more HP and a little bit of reinvig. I didn't like this one. I don't think this turned out particularly well. I think you could... I want to go in here one more time. Abysia. So if we were going to do somebody from here, I think it'd be the Divine Glyph, frankly. I was going to try to find another Titan chassis to suggest, but it just ain't it. It just ain't. In fact, I think we could probably make the same build I did on him on her, and it would actually be a little bit cheaper, especially because we didn't actually end up using the increased pathing. So that may be just be something to think about. Here, I think this could be something if you wanted to really lean into scales. You go all the way to Heat 4. That would be intense. Same thing with Death 3. I don't think we do Death 3. I think we're asking for trouble at that point. So that's an awake. We could put him to sleep for a bunch of points. Maybe we do something like get the magic weapons. We talked about maybe needing those. Just a cheap bless, something like that with big scales. And we still have a lot of points left, so I mean, we could get Fire Shield. We would need to go up to 6. And then we still need one more point. Something like that. So I don't know. That seems like a lot of bless points for a very mediocre sacred. Another thing you could consider would be something, I don't remember the exact cost here, something with the acid weapons, vitriol weapons. These are interesting in that they can rust equipment so you can break it. 7 AP acid damage. There's very, very few things that have acid resistance, so that could be something interesting. We have a couple different units who could apply that. Overall, though, is how I feel about that. In conclusion, late age Abysia. Not done yet, but on the ropes. We are very human. We are cooling off. A fun nation, has a strong inclination towards getting scales and summoning in units, and lots of blood magic, maybe doing some horror work. Could be pretty interesting. Overall, big thumbs up from me. Very, very fun nation. Probably, I think, tied with EA Abysia for my favorite Abysias. I feel middle age is kind of the middle child and doesn't quite have the same bonuses that we get here. All right, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Helps me out an absolute ton. If you're not a subscriber, I hope this is the video that has earned your subscription. I'd love to have you back in. And if you'd like to support the channel, you could always leave a super thanks. You could join us live on stream and do a super chat, or consider becoming a member of the channel. As a member of the channel, you get early access to videos such as this and whatever else I am working on. We'd love to have you there. All right, builders, get out there and light the candle from both ends, and I'll see you in the middle. Babble out.